Suso, tira Alessio, Suso, tira, perché non tiriamo? Ma perché non tiriamo? Goal! Alessio Romagnoli, goal!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Tolgrud.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back. We actually get a real episode this week. We get to talk about a game and talk about two games, an upcoming one and a previous one that hasn't happened in forever. So pretty exciting. Find me on Twitter at Twitter45.
Maddie,
you.
We've got you as
I was
well.
like, hey! Yeah, I'm finally back after what feels like, 3 weeks, 2 weeks? You guys can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Madison_DT.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, good to have the three of us back together and talking about games again. I suppose this kind of feeds into it. For the first time, I'm going to lead off with a question that we got from a listener. It comes from Metal Maniac 789. And this is quite a deep question. How is everyone feeling? Is everybody okay? That was genuinely the question that we got. And I like that because we obviously get a lot of questions about football and transfer rumours. But on a personal level, how are you, lads?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask, if that was like, how am I
think
doing?
that's what it
Because
means.
if that's the case, we need like an 8-hour podcast. I could go on for days about the shit I just experienced 20 minutes ago. God.
It's great.
This podcast is not sponsored by 1-800-Flowers.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. Fuck that company. Anyways, besides that, I'm good. If you guys could tell, I just moved into a new little studio. Literally just down the hallway. Switched the rooms up. So yeah, that's the new digs. You can actually see I do have some memorabilia, and yeah, that's how I'm doing.
We got your memorabilia there in the background. Maddie's wearing his jacket. I'm wearing this Milan Bear thing.
Shirt.
It's so cool, isn't it? I'm
I
a
got
big
Paolo
fan.
Maldini behind me.
Mate, it's all... And Bob Marley. I didn't know you were a Bob Marley fan.
Dude, huge Bob Marley fan.
Stuff. And then, I don't know, is that an MSU thing?
What?
No, it's Central.
Ah, okay.
That's a Canucks pennant.
Right, anyway, I guess how are we, the mood and stuff probably leads into the first point of discussion. We saw a game finally again on Friday night.
Yeah.
We had Ahmed on last week and he said that we're not going to get blown out. We're going to fight really hard, but eventually the result won't go in our favour. And he couldn't have been more right, really, at the end of the day. I'm sure you all know, but we drew 0-0, which meant that because of the first leg and that Cristiano Ronaldo penalty, we went out on away goals to Juve, who have just lost in the final, literally 10 minutes before we started recording, to Gennaro Gattuso's Napoli. And just want to go on record as saying I'm absolutely buzzing for Gattuso. I don't like Napoli as a club, but I would rather them win it than Juve. And also, Gattuso's not had a great 2 weeks. Obviously, he lost his sister at the age of 38 to a long-term illness battle. So it's not been great for him personally, but to deal with all the distractions, to get through to the final and then to win it, it's just such a testament to him. And yeah, it'll be a very proud night in his household tonight, and fair play to Napoli for getting that first bit of silverware since 2014. I mean, it gives us a little bit of hope that, one day we'll finally get that run together and get another bit of silverware.
Not only that, I love the Sarri storyline. He left Napoli so that he could win trophies, and he is still missing that Italian trophy. Obviously won Europa League with Chelsea last season, but to have Gattuso come in and what is this, like his second year in Italian football, or year and a half really, and he's already got one. It's fantastic. So couldn't be happier.
And also the fact that go on.
Makes our management look horrible.
Yeah, I love that too. Embarrass Gazidis, which is pretty easy to do.
Yeah,
which I think Arsenal lost today as well, didn't they? Oh, they were crushed.
3-0.
3-0. With 11 minutes of stoppage time.
David Luiz came off the bench because they had an injury, and it was a howler for the first goal. He basically kneed it straight into the path of Sterling, who scored 1-on-1, and then he gave away a penalty and got sent off. So his match rating would be 0 if we were doing them.
And somehow we'd still get yelled at for not being fair.
Correct. That's correct. And having an agenda.
Who scored gave him
You
a
have an
3.9? Wow.
How did he get 3.9? Anyway, at risk of getting distracted there. So yeah, our management looks horrible. Fair play to Gattuso, got a trophy under his belt. I secretly hoped that if things went pear-shaped, and let's say we didn't get Rangnick for next season, and we got led a little bit astray in the next few years with our project, that we'd go back in for Gattuso and that he might still win his first major honour as a Milan boss. But that ship has now sailed. But genuinely fair play to him. Big achievement.
If
But
Gattuso
back to-
continues to grow as a coach, develop and get stronger, do you think he ever comes back?
No.
I
could
don't
see
think the
it.
door's permanently shut. I think he shut the door to that management, which was
Fair play.
Leonardo.
Yeah.
Obviously, he walked as well, but there were differences between everybody. I think Gattuso and the squad were one unit, and then Leonardo was his own thing, and then the owners, and there were 3 warring factions, and ultimately 2 of them left.
I think
So-
that's
I think would
story.
have to take a special kind of ownership where like Elliott
Yeah.
are purely in it for the money.
Yeah.
It would have to take a sort of billionaire who was a fan of the club or something,
Right.
who appreciated legends and wanted to have something where Gattuso was head coach, Maldini was sporting director, Kaká and Baresi as ambassadors and all that kind of stuff, which I wouldn't be against in the future, but we've got a platform to get to in the short term, and we'll come on to that because everything's developed pretty much in the last 24 hours. But just back to the cup final, the other great narrative is: did you see what Sarri said in his pre-match press conference about how
No, what did he say?
they allegedly didn't play at 100% against us because they didn't need to, because the result from the first leg was in their favour and we had players missing, so we weren't going to cause them as many threats. Got a
They
lot
also
of
couldn't score. They shot
Didn't
so many
really
times, and like
yeah, Donnarumma made 7 saves,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
it was a man of the match performance from him. But I mean,
I
they
don't
weren't
disagree
all.
with what he said. It's probably a true assessment, but also like, fuck you. Why
Don't
would you
say
say
it.
that? Yeah, exactly.
Don't say it and then go and lose the final. Like, probably wait and
Yeah,
say, we
say
were
that
able
after
to
you've
conserve.
won.
Say it like we were able to conserve energy in that Milan game to get us through to here, and we've won. I'm so happy. Fair enough, but he looks like an idiot now because that's
Yeah. You
2
look
games
cocky
back,
and
and
stupid.
they've not been able to score. So but I think Napoli have deserved it. The 2 games, I thought they were a better team against Inter by far.
hopefully
oh, yeah.
this rolls into the season and they continue bad form in the season.
I want Lazio to win the league now. I've
That would
decided.
be amazing.
Yeah, that would be great. Even though
If
we are
Lazio
competing,
wins the league and Sarri gets kicked out of Europa League, because I think they're down right now, or not Europa, like Champions League. They're down to Lyon, right?
Is Champions League continuing?
Yeah, got
Mhm.
announced today, August 13th, I believe, and then the final.
Yeah, and then when it
played like the 23rd.
semi-finals are going to be 1 leg, and it's going to be
Semi
like a
and
straight
quarterfinal.
knockout. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then final as it is in Lisbon, I think it is. Is it?
God.
Yeah.
I love Champions League.
But
I like
anyways,
it more when we
go
play,
for it.
but
Oh yeah, definitely. If Sarri fails to win the league and fails to win Champions League, do you think he gets sacked?
yes.
No,
I could
I
see
don't
it
think so.
happening.
I think
With
he
Ronaldo,
he was given time at Napoli to build, and he should have been given more
Napoli
time
isn't
at Chelsea.
Juventus.
Yeah,
well, he was
I know.
given more time at Chelsea, but he decided to take the Juve job, and that's what
No,
forced
he
him
was
into the
definitely
Lampard.
being pushed, though. He was definitely being touted for the
Yeah, I
Juve
think he was
job
being-
before. I think he wanted to return home. There was probably a bit of that as well. Sarri had a really bad first half of the season at Chelsea. I mean, that doesn't need remembering, but he rescued it and he got them to a
Yeah.
top 4 place comfortably, and then he won them the Europa League
Well,
as
they
well.
started that season actually on top for like the first 5 or 6 match days, and then things went
Fell
south.
off, yeah. No, it's an interesting one. I think they'll give him more time. They'll let him make his kind of purchases this summer. I think they're in dire need of some midfielders, and if he manages to bring Pogba back or manages to get Jorginho, and they manage to get another centre-back, because they've got 3 centre-backs who are like over the age of 30 at the moment, then I think they'll be looking better. But, the squad, it doesn't... I think we saw this in the game as well. They don't strike fear into me anymore like they used to do, Juve, and I think that's a big thing. Psychologically, teams know that they're vulnerable and beatable now. Juve Lazio beating them this season
Twice.
Yeah, they won it. Yeah, they won it.
The Super Cup and the first leg.
Yeah, and I don't know. We'll see. I think that they might be crumbling a little bit, but it's Juve, and I think they'll find a way to get back up there. To be honest.
Yeah, they'll buy it.
But in this game in particular, it was a 0-0 draw. Obviously, there was the penalty save from what was a debatable, but in my opinion, probably more awardable penalty than the one in the first leg on
Yes.
Conte. Again, I don't know why he flicks his elbow out. That's not instinctive, in my opinion. So that was one to.
Then Ronaldo touched it, and I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he nearly caught it when it touched his
Yeah.
hand. But then obviously Donnarumma with an amazing penalty save, one of the best I've seen to tip it onto the post. And then Rebic basically ruins the game. You know, we needed without our best,
after.
it was within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, without our most dangerous players on the pitch in Ibra and Teo Hernandez, and with us needing an away goal, the one important thing is to probably try and keep the numbers even at 11v11, especially when we get a let off from the penalty like that. Ball gets cleared. What he's thinking there, I don't know. I would have fined him, because if we'd have gone on to reach the final, we would have got a lot of money from it. And that ultimately cost us. You know, we battled hard, and
Do you think we would have won if he was on the field?
We'll never know, and I guess that's the point. Like, I think there were
scored
definitely
in
times.
the first leg, right?
Yeah. I only watched the first half. I went out to the couch on the second half and I passed out. So I didn't see the second half. But from what I watched in the first half, I thought that we could have put a few goals in. But
there was a decent spell in the second half, I believe, where I really thought, like, okay, you know, we're picking it up, we might get it. But
I must admit, there was that spell in the second half where Juve were trying to counter. They did manage to counter, actually, at one point. But they were trying to counter, and Benacer and Kessié actually looked like a really, really effective midfield pairing. They were just winning the ball back for us and recycling it, and we had so much possession. We just couldn't break them down, you know, playing without a natural striker in a one-striker formation. It just wasn't going to work, unfortunately. There were so many times when we got the ball out wide with the fullbacks and they had nobody to aim at, and there were pointless crosses that just drifted to the far post. And then I think not the most disappointing thing for me, that'd have to be the red card, but Rafael Leao coming on as the only recognised forward, you know, centre-forward option in our team, and appearing to be a little bit lazy, in my opinion, and just not. He should have just been like, this is my chance. We've got nothing to lose. If they counter and score, we still need a goal. It doesn't matter. I've got nothing to lose. I'll lead the line. I'll prove my worth. And he just wasn't chasing anything down, and he looked a bit like stroppy when the ball wasn't straight to him, and that's just not the kind of attitude you want to see, really. And it looks like it's going to cost him his starting place for the Lecce game, which we'll come on to.
No, it's also almost like you're not playing for a PSG type of team where you're going to have direct passes to you every time. You're going to have to work to be able to, you know, get to the ball. Not saying that gives us an excuse to have sloppy passes, but you have to be a contributor. And if you're not going to be a contributor, you're not going to play, because...
Well, it's just if Rangnick was watching that game, which he probably will have been doing, you know...
it doesn't bode well.
We'll come on to the rumours and stuff. His team is built so much around pressing, high intensity, winning the ball back quickly, running towards goal, getting shots off as quick as possible. He'll have looked at that Leao performance and thought, don't want him near my team. And yeah, there are people who say, you know, that it's a tough game to judge him from because he might have been told to play a slightly different role from what he's used to. But just look like you care. You know, And now I can see why all the reports are saying Rebic is starting up front again in the next game. You know, it surprises me.
I think Leao's just immature.
I do too.
Like from the videos that he posts on social media when he
keeps posting fucking compilations of himself that fans are making. It's like, score more than 2 goals and then they'll have more material to bloody make them with. Sorry, but...
He's done like 4 dribbles all season, yeah.
Honestly, I mean, the compilations, I shouldn't slag them off because there's been some good compilations made by people that I really like on Twitter and stuff. But just focus on... You know, like Teo always posts stuff on Twitter and Instagram. I'm like, you know what, he's probably earned the right to be able to do that because fans love him. He's a fan favourite at this point and people will lap that shit up. Whereas with Leao, people are like, do you mind? Do you want to give us more than 3 dribbles to make compilations with, mate? Like, you're right, it's immaturity. He needs to get there because finally there's been some reports that have been coming out from fairly decent sources saying that his future's not safe into next season. And honestly, I think if the opportunity to loan him out to another team in Serie A comes up, we will actually consider it, especially if we go out and get 2 strikers like the current rumours are. You know, if we bring in Jovic and like Myron Boadu or Scamacca or somebody to be an understudy to a main centre-forward that we bring in, then I don't see a role for Leao then. So I would maybe send him out on loan somewhere to get a bit of playing time and see what kind of a player he can become. Because it's not doing him any good starting games on the bench, but he's clearly not pushing for that starting spot enough. It's that simple. You know, you work hard in training, you get your shot, and he's not got his shot without Ibrahimovic fit. So,
well, he was just waiting that entire game. It looked like he was just waiting for Benacer or Kessie or someone to make just the perfect pass to where he was unopposed and he could just walk into the goal, and that never was going to happen, of course. But
so there is one. There is one thing that that did annoy me a little bit, and that was when we went down to 10 men and Rebic, who was obviously our starting centre forward for that game, was off the field. We should have instantly yanked Jack Bonaventura and put Leao up front and played a 4-2-2-1 with the two sort of a bit wider. And yeah, just see how that works and put Leao up front. So maybe he was a bit upset about not being thrown on there when we still needed to go.
Jack looked good though.
Yeah,
first half, I thought he looked good.
He did look good. He's lost a yard of pace. We can all see that.
Yeah,
there was a couple of times he was leading the counters, and I was like, "Wow, he's slow." But technically, I still think he's one of our best players. I think he's one of.
Re-sign him or do you let him go? I feel like we have this conversation every week, but
he's gone now. I think, but
yeah, I think it depends on what kind of reinforcements we bring in. If we're strapped for cash, I bet we could get him to take a reduced salary for a 1-year extension, and then he's a fine depth player. But he's just no longer able to start. He's just not fast enough.
No, I'd still keep him if Rangnick said that he wanted him around, because he does have elements of experience in his squads. And if he said that's a useful versatility player who can play as one of the attacking midfielders, or if needed, could play alongside like a Bakayoko and sort of be a box-to-box midfielder in the holding too, then maybe that could work. And I think that financially the incentive is there to renew him, because we would have to replace that depth option somehow. And, it's basically like a free transfer to keep him around. And he's earned it. But, I also understand that this is a brand new project and perhaps it's time to remove all sentimentality and wipe the slate clean and just say to Rangnick, here's our list of players, tell us the ones you want to keep, tell us the ones you want us to sell, and tell us the ones you want us to sign. Simple as that. So, yeah, I mean, I will say at this point as well that we got a question from Richard S. saying, what do you think about Leao? Looks like a bad investment right now. That's another interesting point about Leao, is that we spent the money on him. It's
spent a lot of money.
28 million.
I thought it was more
28
than
million is the transfer fee, but it becomes more than 30 million when you factor in bonuses, you factor in his wages, and also, Thiago Giallo, who we sent the other way, he made the list for that golden boy because he's now mint, so this is just what we do. And then I've also seen the counter argument to that be that we don't want Leao to become another Aubameyang, another Niang, where we cast them off that bit too soon before they're primed to explode. So I understand that message as well. I do think he'll be given a season.
Cast off Aubameyang when he was like 15 though, right? He was young.
He was 18, I think.
But you also got to look at who was in front of him at the time. It wasn't the wrong move to make. We had Inzaghi. Did we have Pato yet? I don't remember, but
we weren't to know that he was going to go to Saint Etienne, was it, and do what he did. At 18, you don't know about players like that. I mean, we might as well discuss it now, but we missed out on Tanguy Kouassi, who's gone to Bayern Munich. That's not been officially announced yet, but it seems to be pretty much done. I'm a bit gutted about that. I wrote a feature on it. It's under Devil's Advocate on the website if you want to read that one. The point of the feature was basically that just by appointing Ralph Rangnick and saying, look, we've got this amazing project, it doesn't make us the most attractive club in Europe by default. It just doesn't, because other teams have a project built around youth players like Dortmund, signing the likes of Sancho, Haaland. There's loads of other examples, and they're just ahead of where we are at the moment. And they can offer more money because they're in the big competitions. And they can say to players, we're in the Champions League. And here we are. And it's like, we've got Ralph Rangnick. He did the Red Bull thing. It's not, it perhaps isn't as compelling as some people think it's going to be. And especially while we can't announce Rangnick for various contractual reasons, it means at times working against us. And perhaps we have that list of targets, the likes of Florentino Luis, Szoboszlai, Luka Jovic. These are good players, but other teams are going to recognise they're good players. and they're going to be able to swoop in ahead of us, especially Szoboszlai, who's scored like 6 goals since the season resumed. And just a bit of a worry. But it's looking good on the Rangnick front anyway. So hopefully once we get that signature on the document, ultimately it will mean...
We don't need those guys.
Actually don't really know what to think of his performance against Juve. It was such a 6 out of 10 performance. He didn't make any colossal errors like he normally does. In terms of, we're on a counter-attack and he makes the wrong decision. But I kind of wanted him to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and say, I'm going to be the guy who creates stuff here. And that didn't happen. But
I think...
Again, he's got... Him and Leao have got 12... How many games have we got? 8 games left, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in the next 8 games or in the next 2 months, we're going to see a lot out of Paqueta. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. And I hope that he proves himself. I have a feeling he will, but I've been saying that all season.
If the reports are true and he doesn't want to be here and he pushed for an exit in January, it's in his best interest to be bloody good between now and the end of the season because teams need to want to buy him.
Where does he want to go? Back home?
PSG seemed to be the one that was said. There were a few different newspapers.
Yeah, I know.
If he can't play here, how is he going to expect to play at PSG?
It's easier, more service, lesser league.
Yeah, it's just like, you could put him in one of the elite teams and he would probably thrive because he's that kind of technical player who would be able to pick teams up, and especially teams where he doesn't have any real defensive responsibilities. But I still agree with the majority of people who say that he played his best football for us in the midfield 3 in Gattuso's 4-3-3. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, an interesting point before we move on to preview the Lecce game. A lot of people have been saying, when Rangnick arrives, he's going to play this 4-2-2-2 or 4-4-2, however you want to say it. Did a bit of research earlier. At Leipzig alone, Rangnick used a 3-1-4-2, a 4-3-1-2. We don't want to go back to that, man. A 4-2-3-1 and a 3-5-2. So it might be a case of, whatever the opponent is, he knows what
Which
the best
is
system
the way
is.
it should be. Players should be able to adapt to all situations like that. Should be able to change formations on a whim, and a manager should be able to change that mid-game as well. So that's a good thing.
Players will be able to change when they have a good manager in place.
Right.
So Rangnick might be able to get away with that when nothing against Pioli. I think that, he's a pretty average manager. He's not Gianpaolo by any means. He's better than Gianpaolo.
Right.
But he may not be a manager who can just be like, all right, for Juve, we're going to do this.
And we saw that, in that game, Juve kept dropping into a 4-4-1-1 in defense every time we got the ball, and we couldn't do anything. We stayed in a 4-3-3 the entire time. It never changed, even when we were trying to counter and there was 7 men in front of us, we just stood there.
Feels like every time that we came up against a team before the break, that we came up against a team who plays predominantly with a 3-man defence, we were pretty much all unanimous in saying we struggle against teams who play with a 3-man defence and pack the midfield. We should probably switch and do the same to match them man for man and to accommodate that. We should match into system, for example, but we didn't do it. It didn't work. We got picked apart in that second half. There were so many other examples of where we've been overrun by teams who play 5-man midfield. Perhaps Rangnick's finally going to be the guy who realises that he can't address every single one of our weaknesses in one transfer window. So he has that fluidity to sculpt the squad and get them playing various systems and ones that match up well against opponents that are better than us. And hopefully the playing style and the philosophy helps us with that as well, because I don't think any team likes playing against a hard press. Especially the likes of Juve and Inter, who rely so much on ball retention and moving through the thirds by moving in waves of players. I don't think those teams in particular will like playing against a team that wants to win the ball back and shoot within 10 seconds. But we'll see. There'll be plenty of time for previewing what Rangnick has to bring for us. Just as a quick update on that, Sky Italy, Sky Germany, both saying that he will now arrive as our new head coach and sporting director. So he's got power on the field and off it, which is what we thought. Media said that he's got a 75 mil transfer budget, which has been said as well by other sources, and he gets half of what we raise through player sales, which could be a lot, if Silva and Suso go for a combined 50 mil or whatever. And then what was the other thing? He's going to bring his own staff with him, and he's going to sign a 3-year deal for a total of 15 mil, so 5 mil a year. All sounds pretty much as expected and as rumoured for a while. Got a message from Vito earlier saying, we're pretty much the only ones who've never wavered from the stance of he's definitely coming. We had the meetings, and he's right. Our information on that has always been pretty consistent. He was always the number one target. We've got him. He's asked for guarantees. We've given them. So this is it. But anyway, preview him later. Preview Lecce now. Monday, Serie A action is back. We've got a trip to Lecce. I don't even know where Lecce is. I'm going to Google where Lecce is, but
I want to say it's in the south.
Yeah, I think it might be southern Apulia region. Yeah, it is quite far south. So it's a trip south for us. Be a lot warmer down there. Be a lot warmer down there, that's for sure. We're welcoming back Castillejo and Teo Hernandez for this game. Ibrahimovic will be out injured, probably back for the Roma game. Duarte and Mustaccio are also going to be injured. I think Krunic was back, obviously, for the cup game. So what's your 11? Does Rebic stay as the centre forward?
Yeah, I think we're going to keep it almost identical to the cup game. Obviously, slot in Teo. And I guess that's really it. Samu would fill in for someone. I can't remember who, though.
Paqueta.
Probably Paqueta, yeah.
Yeah, probably. And I think that'll be the only change. I think the rest will be the same.
I think he takes Jack out of the starting lineup, to be honest, and plays Castillejo and maybe plays Paqueta centrally behind.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, me too. Play Paqueta in the hole and see if we can get a bit of something out of him. We put him in a position to thrive there. But it also wouldn't surprise me if we went with Castillejo on the right. Assuming we go with the 4-2-3-1 again, if he played with Castillejo on the right, Bonaventura on the left, and Hakan as the attacking midfielder. It wouldn't surprise me because he likes playing him there now. I think Castillejo and Teo get back into the team fairly comfortably. Castillejo, we got a comment on our last one saying that they agreed with the Castillejo assessment in that he's been overhyped after a few bright displays. And I still think we might actually be actively trying to find a new right-sided player, one who guarantees goals and assists.
And I think we should.
Yeah, I do.
But we also need a striker who is going to be scoring those goals. We also need a center attack mid who will be feeding the ball in on the center, and same with on the left side. We can't just be like, all right, he's not doing this one thing, let's get him out of here, when none of the team is doing it.
Yeah, that's true. You've got to hold them all to the same standards. It does make me feel better, though, if we've got, for example, a new centre-forward who's a proven goal scorer. Then you've got Rebic on the left, who, since Christmas has been a consistent goal scorer in Serie A. And then on the right, you've got another player who is going to chip in with goals and assists. But you're right, it's easier said than done going out and getting these kinds of players. I like the Depay stuff. We keep being linked with Memphis Depay, and he's been getting double-figure goals now, and he's been superb since he went to Lyon. But it's just where you shoehorn him in. I think if we get Luka Jovic, I genuinely think we'll put Jovic and Rebic up front together, and I would kind of like to see that, because the closer Rebic is to goal, the more damage he seems to do, and those two would obviously deadly together at Eintracht Frankfurt. That would then leave a spot on the left for a Depay or a Szoboszlai, somebody like that. Or Szoboszlai can be on the right and Depay on the left.
How do you say his name?
Szoboszlai. Yeah. That's how someone told us to pronounce it in the comments. It's tough because there's two SZ sounds in there.
Hungarian is one of the hardest languages in the world to learn how to speak.
A lot of Zs, yeah. And then Benacer and a new holding midfielder, Bakayoko, Florentino Luis, or whatever. Kalulu's here, by the way. We signed someone.
Yeah,
we should have probably mentioned that earlier on. But yeah, we got one over the line. He's joining on a 5-year deal. Compensation fee around about 800k, apparently, which is fair. Leon are apparently fuming with their sporting director, Juninho, for not getting anything over the line with regards to a new contract, and instead he's joining us, 5-year deal. Apparently Maldini was the one who worked the charm again, just as he did with Theo Hernandez. And
who is this guy? I have no idea who he is.
well,
I have not
a
been
lot
paying
of people
attention
don't.
to any news.
He's
A
a
lot of
right back,
people
center
don't.
back. Well, he's a center back who's been playing right back, but they say he's better at center back. He's young. I think is he 18 or 19?
18.
18. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good signing, but it's not going to save the day, you know?
Should we finish talking about the Lecce game?
Yeah, we should do. Yeah, we should do that.
We gotta.
Yeah, we do
We
that.
do that a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
We do that a lot. So yeah, the Lecce game. So the 11 starts to sort of pick itself now. We've got these players back, which is good. Lecce are in a relegation battle, aren't they? I believe. I'm looking it up now.
We play Monday evening.
Yeah, Lecce third bottom at the moment, tied on points with Genoa, who are fourth bottom, and I mean Torino are right in a relegation battle. I didn't even realise that. They're in a real mess this season, aren't they? But it's very tight at the bottom, so Lecce are going to fight like hell for this. I've just realised because it is so tight at the bottom.
What about Bellotti? Would you guys? I'm going off on another.
Well, let's just stay off the tangents now, shall we, mate?
Just randomly throwing in a transfer target mid-game conversation.
So this is what worries me. Lecce have Lapadula.
That doesn't work at all.
He'll score against me. Kuma Babacar, I actually liked him at one point, but he's kind of dropped off a lot. Diego Farias, I actually like him. He's on loan from Cagliari. Marco Mancosu is the captain, attacking midfielder. Saponara, who of course was once at Milan. Tashtidis, who I know because he's on loan from Nottingham Forest, who are in Huddersfield's league. Who else have they got? They've got Calderoni, who of course scored the late equaliser at the San Siro earlier in the season in Pioli's first game, funnily enough. So things have finally come full circle. They've also got Luca Rossatini, who's on loan from Genoa, and I actually quite like the look of. Gabriel as well, who was former Milan youth goalkeeper. He's on loan from Perugia. So there's a few ex-Milan players and a few players of interest in there.
So we're losing.
I was going to say, what do you think? What's the prediction for this one, lads? Because I feel like form's kind of gone out the window.
Yeah,
I feel like we can't judge how we've come back based on that Juve game because it was so freaky from the early red card. So it feels like another fresh start now.
If there's one thing, I feel like Rebic is good at knowing when he needs to prove himself, and I feel like he's going to want to show up after making a mistake like he did. So
we're going to win 3-0.
Yeah, let's go with that.
It's great that the suspension doesn't carry over into the league, by the way. Big fan of that.
Yeah, same.
So 3-0. Scorers.
I think Rebic is going to get a double. And then Theo Hernandez is going to do his thing.
Ooh, that'd be cool too.
Oh, yeah. Teo's going to be fired up for this one, man. I think he gets the winner in this. And I think we win 1-0.
I love Theo Hernandez, man.
I think we're made to fight like hell until the last 20 minutes, and we score a winner through Theo Hernandez, who breaks the lines and slots it in and celebrates in front of the camera.
He is someone who has just so much passion for this team, and not many of our players do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a Davide Calabria hat trick.
Shut the fuck up.
You know what? On a serious note, I'd play him at right back over having Conte at right back.
Yeah,
100%.
I think he looked the better of the two.
There all season too. I
think he looked the better of the two fullbacks against Juve, and he was playing on the wrong side. So people were slagging off his crossing ability. He was trying it on his weaker foot, for God's sake. Come on, lads. So I think 1-0. I think we're going to be made to work very hard for it. And then we've also got the Roma game on the horizon.
We tied Juve 0-0 at Juve, playing a man down.
That's first time we've stopped them scoring.
Yeah, that's not horrible. It's horrible because it knocked us out of the League Cup, but it's still something to build off of.
Yeah, I spoke to my dad about the game, and I think he's quite objective. Obviously, not as emotionally invested in Milan as I am, but he said it was one of the strangest games that he's ever seen, because he thought the one result that was impossible was 0-0, because either we'd get hit on the break and lose 1 or 2-0, or we'd somehow find a way to score a goal and it would be a lot more dramatic. But the 0-0 result was so weird, because it basically did nothing for either team. But yeah, that's just the way it is, and that's why I feel like Lecce is kind of a new clean slate, and we get to see with a couple of key players back what we're really capable of. And I hope we get a bit of momentum going into that Roma game, because that could be crucial. We've seen with results in the Bundesliga. I know it's a different league, all that, but Hertha Berlin, for example, went on a massive rocket up the table. And you think if we can string some positive results together, especially going into that run of games with teams around us, then we can firm up a European spot. If things go badly, then we'll end up, fighting to stay in the top half again. So getting momentum early is important, especially with all the distractions in the media and stuff like that. Crack on, get 3 points up Lecce. Let's do a bit of a rumour roundup, shall we? So the first thing, actually, some decent quotes came out from Benacer, basically saying that he's honoured by interest from big clubs, but he's focused on doing well at Milan. That's good. And there's not really much to say on that one, except it's always
like a classic. I love the interest, but I love Milan for the time being.
Players are always going to say that when they're asked specifically about interest from other clubs, they're going to say, oh, well, it's great to be appreciated for my hard work and stuff.
Right.
Focused on, and that's what he did. So I'm happy that he said that. That should put the rumours to bed for a little bit. I also don't see anyone paying 50 mil for him, to be honest, this summer. But Kalulu done his medical today. We talked about it briefly. In answer to the question, who is he? Played quite a lot for UEFA Youth League, in the UEFA Youth League for Lyon. The problem was that he was stuck behind 3 other well-paid right-backs in their squad, hence why he didn't make a senior appearance. I think he's 19, actually, got it wrong lately. He's been signed as the new backup right-back, basically, which means that both of Calabria and Conti could leave. Conti should go because, in my opinion, he's not good enough, and we've talked about that so many times. If Calabria leaves, it'll be to get pure capital gain because it looks so good on the balance sheet. If we were to then swap that out and basically get Kalulu as the backup, the understudy to a more established right-back like Denzel Dumfries, he keeps being the name mentioned. Obviously, he's captain at his current club. That would make sense to me. Missed out on Kouassi. He's gone to Bayern Munich. How do we feel about that?
Didn't we do this already?
We mentioned it, but...
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
Because I then went on a big rant about the devil's advocate thing. Personally, I can see why he's gone to Bayern. They offered him 10 million over 5 years, so there's a financial incentive. I think he was lying if he ever said he was making a decision based on playing time, because he's going to be stuck behind some pretty high-profile defenders at Bayern.
Is he centre back or right back?
Centre back. He can play holding midfield, so there may be a role for him there. Maybe he's just going to come in and essentially fill the spot in the depth chart that Jerome Boateng has, for example, if he leaves this summer. But I think it's a strange move, because I thought that he would either move to a team where he would be the centrepiece of a project like Milan, or even like Stade Rennais, whatever, came in apparently with a good offer and promised him game time, etc. Would have understood if a lad who's just turned 18 wanted to stay in his home country and close to his family and stuff. I would have understood if he renewed with PSG. He was getting games for them, despite being only 17 years old at the time he was getting those games. But ultimately, he's gone for the Bundesliga route, like so many young players are doing. We see it time and time again now. These players, like I mentioned earlier, the likes of Haaland, Sancho, Bayern have got Gnabry, Alphonse Davies. All these young players seem to just be wanting to try their chance in the German league, and we've missed out on Kouassi. We move on to other targets now. Nikola Milinkovic from Fiorentina keeps being linked a lot. I kind of like him.
Yeah, I'm not against it. Knows the league. He's a decent defender. I mean, why not?
Importantly, I think we're after a very specific type of defender, and that is a defender who's aggressive in the press and is very physical and will win one-on-one battles. That's what Kouassi did.
Do you know who we could get?
Don't say Thiago Silva.
No, John Anthony Brooks.
Oh.
I don't know which one annoys me more, but you mention them both every week.
I definitely mention Brooks on a weekly basis. Not Silva, though.
So, I mean, there are plenty of options out there. I like Christopher Ayer for the same reason. I understand the reservations because he plays in the Scottish League, but so did Van Dijk. And, you know, love him or hate him, love Liverpool or hate him, we'd love a Van Dijk style player in our team at the moment to complement someone with the finesse of Romagnoli. Kay is obviously an option. Oh, man, bring it back. Get Alex out of retirement. Paletta, is he still knocking about?
Alex turned 38 today, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah.
You gave me a great moment seeing my first goal against him live at San Siro. Bullet header when we won 3-0. Great night under Mihailovic when we actually had a vision and style of play. Who else is there that we've been linked with? There's just fucking loads in there. Some guy from Ajax we got linked with earlier. The centre-back thing we don't seem to have nailed down.
Serginho Dest? Is that the guy or is it someone else?
A right-back. It's per Schurz or something.
Sure.
He played 10 league games this season for Ajax, and he is highly rated, to be fair. I think Liverpool and Spurs were after him, which maybe should say something. He's only 18. I want to say he's 18 or he's 20. He's one of the two.
I mean, we're definitely going for a familiar profile, it sounds like, which should be no surprise to anyone young.
It's a certain identity of player. Yeah. That shouldn't surprise us, yeah. Szoboszlai stuff, nothing really concrete. Same with Florentino. It's all just like stuff that's up in the air at the moment. But hopefully, this idea that we have actually managed to get the Rangnick stuff close to over the line means that we can start pitching the project with him as the centerpiece of it to these prospective
that's probably
players.
Why. I mean, that's probably not the only reason why we lost out on Kouassi, but that's probably why players might be hesitant right now. Is because we could say, well, we're working on a deal with Rangnick. We think he's going to come, but it's not done yet. Like, that's a lot of tumultuous air, you know. That there's like, it's
we're
really
probably
hard
also not saying that.
No,
because you can't say that when you can't tell someone that who's maybe coming to the team, and they can go talk to the press and be like, Milan tried selling me on Rangnick.
That's true. Yeah,
they could sell it on the probability, but not the certainty. Which is difficult because if you go to a player, especially a young and impressionable player, if you're Maldini, and it's like, right, so we want you to join our youth project, the first question the player would ask is, who's going to be the manager? And they'll be like, well, we don't know yet, but we want it to be this guy, but keep that under wraps. And then the player would be like, well, will you be here? And Maldini would be like, I don't know. You know, it's going to be quite a difficult thing to sell.
Yeah.
But
that's funny.
I
hope so, but I don't know.
Right.
I'd love to be, but yeah. Not sure yet. Might have other things in the diary. It's a tough pitch at the moment with the season still ongoing as well. I understand why we can't announce Rangnick formally. I think the thing that's going to make it kick in is when at the end of the Bundesliga season, his departure from Red Bull is formally announced with the statement on their website, and Red Bull won't joining us. They'll say that he's had his contract terminated by mutual consent, and then it will basically be like, he is joining then. Yeah.
Well, and didn't we kind of get confirmation without confirmation that he's no longer working with Red Bull in an official terminology or whatever?
Yeah, there is some stuff like that. Apparently, he's been working on the Brazilian team. Brand?
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called.
But yeah.
And the New York Red Bulls more so than but he's still going to Leipzig games and stuff. He was at the Leipzig game tonight, so
why would he waste his time with the New York Red Bulls?
It's his job.
I liked him when they were the Metro
I waste
Stars.
my time with my job.
True. Because he gets paid around €6 million a year to do it.
Okay, so not the same reason, but
yeah,
that'd be cool.
Funny. So we'll see.
So anything with Donnarumma?
Yeah, that's actually the next point. Good news, really. It's not good news in the best possible terms because he's not going to be signing a new 5-year extension or anything. Most of the major outlets now agree that he'll probably sign a 1 or 2 year extension, pushing him to 22, 23, possibly 24. Keeping his pay around about the same with some bonuses thrown in if he takes a little bit of a pay cut. The important thing about that being that it will push the the discussion about a longer term renewal a bit further down the line, where the economy of football will be a bit more settled.
Right.
And we'll know what we can offer him in a serious capacity. We'll know where we're heading under Rangnick after 1 or 2 years. We'll know what our ambitions are as a club, whether we're back in the Champions League or not. And yeah, also the release clause thing is going to come into it as well, I think.
Well,
a big part of negotiating.
When you're at his level and age and just at a club in the position that it's in, it only makes sense to sign short-term deals, because ultimately he's got to keep his doors open, even if he wants to stay. Like, you can't commit yourself to a 5-year deal when the last 5 years of the 5-year deal you just had, each single year has been a different manager, different management. Like, it's just
but I mean, we suck, but how much can a coach change goalkeeping tactics?
That's true.
He could change the goalkeeping staff.
He's still regarded as one of the best young goalkeepers, if not one of the best young players in European/world football. And he's doing that at a team
Someone
that doesn't...
just said he was like the 11th most valuable goalkeeper in Europe right now or something.
I wouldn't be
that
surprised.
was bullshit, because he was behind like Pau Lopez and another Syria. Yeah, and it's like, that's just wrong.
Although I would say he's one of the top goalies in the world. I'm sorry, in Italy.
No, I think he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Honestly,
I do too.
I think he's currently a top 10 goalkeeper in the world. And the reason that the value was the way it was explained afterwards, is because it takes into account how the contract situation is. So it wiped a big chunk off his value because he only had 1 year left on his deal.
Gotcha.
Because obviously that means we can't command as high a transfer fee. And that's another reason that this extension makes sense. Because if we sell this summer, first of all, there's not the market of teams that are going to come forward. If they've got 50 mil to spend, they're not spending it on a goalkeeper in one lump sum. And secondly, I can't remember what my second point was. So, just sign and push the debate, push the discussion over a long-term future, just that little bit down the line. And we'll see where we are in a year's time. Hopefully under a year of Rangnick's guidance, hopefully moving in the right direction. I think it really is as simple as Raiola and Donnarumma just looking for a few guarantees from the club that this is our blueprint to becoming successful in the short, medium term. And we want you to be a big part of this. And I saw someone tweet, I can't remember who it was, that Donnarumma's renewal is something we need to get sorted, even if it is a short-term one, because it's such a pressure meter, in terms of players that are looking at joining the club. If Donnarumma leaves, they're thinking, well, if he doesn't want to be part of it, then why would I? Whereas if he stays, then they might think, oh, they are building something. He's been given assurances that there is a serious project in place here. So it's a big barometer, that's the word I'm looking for, of how things go moving forward. But we'll see. Romagnoli looks like he's going to renew. We're trying to avoid a Donnarumma situation with him where we get a year from the expiration of his deal. I think his renewal will get renewed. His renewal will get agreed, sometime early next season.
I think that he's going to be a career player at Milan. I don't think he's going to ever leave.
I just don't think. I think if he were to move, I just can't see him at an Atletico Madrid or Barcelona. I really can't. Italian defenders like to stay in Italy, and
Italian players, not just defenders. Italian players like to stay in Italy.
His move up would be to a Juve or something, and I really don't know if he's at that level at the moment. It's easy to say it off the back of a monstrous performance against Juve, and he was fantastic. But let's not be short-sighted and remember the times that we've criticised him on here because he went missing in the derby when we conceded 4 times in the second half, for example. You've got to be consistently elite to be getting a big move like that to a rival, especially. I think that's pretty much it. I'll ask one question.
How are you doing this evening?
I'll ask 2 questions actually. I should have asked this one last week. A quick transfer question. It was from Max Kroner. We got it on Instagram DM. That's another way to submit questions for the podcast, by the way. We've got our DMs open on Insta. What's your opinion on signing Kurt Zouma instead of Deo Upamecano?
I'm down with it.
I like that. Very similar.
Open for it.
I watch a lot of Chelsea. I think Zuma's great, and I think he's the most expendable of all their defenders right now, so it would make the most sense to get rid of him. I think Tomori's been excelling there, and Rudiger's definitely their best. Plus, they have Christensen, who's an incredible backup. So if any of them are going to leave, it's going to be Zouma. And, if the door's open, I say let's get him in.
I was going to say we should go to Chelsea and say we want Zuma, and if they said no, he's too important, I'd say give us Rudiger, and if they say no, he's too important, then I'd just say, well, you're giving us one of them. Like, just try and prize one of them away, because obviously Rudiger's got the Serie A experience. He was fantastic at Roma, and Zuma is just an absolute unit, a proper unit of a centre back, and exactly the kind of player
last season at Everton.
Of course he went to Everton, didn't he? Yeah. I like him. His development's been good, and he fits in with our project. The only problem might be his wages, but we'll see about that. I also don't mind Christensen at Chelsea, to be honest, but he's a different,
would be the best.
He's a different type of defender, you know. Solid unit, don't get me wrong, but Zuma is he's a physical
Zuma
freak.
fits more of the mold of what we need to partner Romagnoli.
Yeah, exactly. I think, especially with our vulnerabilities
honestly,
at
Rudiger
fullback.
would too. Rudiger would be perfect.
Yeah. It'd be great. Tomori, should go for Tomori, man.
He'd probably be the cheapest. Well, I don't know if he'd be the cheapest, because he's got really high potential.
He's future England international.
Without a doubt.
I mean, England have, thin centre-back options as it is. I think Smalling, given the season he's had at Roma, has half a chance of bringing back into the England squad when the Euros come around. But Smalling would be an interesting one if he wants to stay in Italy, but Roma can't afford his transfer fee.
What about John Stones?
I think you see John Anthony Brooks.
Yeah. What about Thiago Silva? Have we talked about him coming back?
He's on his way to
going
Everton.
to Everton. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. About to buy that jersey.
I hope he does. I really hope he does. I think if he goes to the Premier League, whichever team it is going to get fleeced. If he came to Milan, he'd take a third of his salary. If he goes to the Premier League, he ain't taking a pay cut. They know that teams can play it.
They offered him $4 million a season.
We ain't accepting that. Not from 12 mil a year.
He's making 12 mil a year?
Or 10 mil net, I think.
Boy.
That's still a shit ton of money.
Attaboy.
10 or 12.
Gosh.
But well earned, like a consistent trophy winner. Reliable defender for over a decade, But he's 35 now. I thought that he would go back to Brazil, to be totally honest, because he's one bad injury away from his career being over. And I really thought he would have gone back to Fluminense there. But he says he wants to stay in Europe. So we'll see. He don't fit our project. He don't fit our plans. So we'll move on. Braxton, final question of the episode. Braxton asks, if Rangnick gets all the players on his shortlist, Jovic, Florentino Luis, Szoboszlai and Milenkovic are the four that you mentioned in particular, is top four realistic next season? So we talked about with Ahmed how we need a bit of patience next season with Rangnick.
Yeah, but those are four really good players.
Do you think the surprise factor of his tactics and his style of football and the fact that we'd be signing so many young, unknown quantities works in our favour or against us?
Against us. It's the Italian league. Nothing ever goes right.
I think it works in our favor in the sense that our opponents won't know what to do, but it works against us in the same way that switching to Giampaolo's system worked against us, I don't think we're going to be prepared to make that drastic of a change in as short amount of time as we're going to have. Because as soon as the season's over, we're taking a very short break before we get back into it,
Yeah.
So
the one thing that got mentioned last week was that if Giampaolo had got a couple of the players that he requested, then things might have gone differently. If he'd stuck with his system rather than bailing on it after one bad game at Udinese, things might have gone differently. The difference is Rangnick will get his targets because he's probably been promised them as part of coming here.
And he's a sporting director, so he'll sign the damn contract.
And he ain't going to abandon his way of playing. So I like the idea of next year being a free shot. Let's just see where it takes.
I think the second half of next year is going to be a lot more successful than the first half of next year. And
as we said last week as well, I think fans will be a lot more patient if they see something coming together. If they see the fact that we're competing with top teams, we're going toe-to-toe with Juve again, playing really, really high-quality football and maybe losing 3-2 instead of 2-0, they'll start to get behind it,
We saw progress under Gattuso, and then management was like, nah, you're not on board. We don't want you. Instead of being like, oh, well, we've made progression under you. What would you like? That was last season. Besides Leonardo leaving,
It was Leonardo.
Yeah, it was the same ownership, but the ownership had made it clear they wanted to go in a different
Was
direction.
it Gazeta still?
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
He came in December of last year. The thing with that was that Gattuso got us in a position to challenge for top four, and we got the two pieces that we needed in Piontek and Paqueta in the January transfer window. Combined 70 mil, remember, that's a big investment, and both have kind of not exactly gone to plan. We didn't qualify for top four. There was already rumours at that point that we were going to try go for Sarri, Conte or Allegri. We were going to try and get an upgrade on Gattuso, so his position was unstable already. And then it got to the end of the season, and Gattuso apparently went to the management and said, we need 3 experienced players. I think he, in particular, requested Ibrahimovic, Frank Ribery.
Yeah, I know Rebic for sure.
Said we needed those leaders in the dressing room, and we'll be a top 4 team. We needed 2 or 3 additions of experience and proven winners, and we will be a top 4 side. And the management said, no, we're going with this youth project. You can like it or lump it. And he walked out of principle. Then Leonardo walked as well when probably he got the youth project rammed down his throat as well when he's more used to working with bigger budgets and stuff. And then we've been in this direction now. And the idea was to hire Gianpaolo, who gets a lot out of a little. And it didn't work. And we're on a slippery slope still. But, let's just have a look.
We've been on a slippery slope for 10 years.
Right.
I'm trying to stay positive, man.
Oh, I'm trying to stay awake.
Well, don't drink a gallon of lemonade.
I think everybody who listens is probably trying to stay awake at this point as well. So we'll wrap it up. Just before we close it, want to say a big thank you again to everybody who voted for us in the Football Content Awards. If you're listening to this on Thursday, the 18th of June, voting is still open until midnight UK time. So if you're listening to this, check out the tweet that's gone out this morning on our account about the ways to vote. Like I say, voting ends at midnight. We're up against an interwebsite, a Parma website, a few others. So it'd be great to win that award in particular. And thanks to those who have voted for us. We appreciate all the support. And thanks for listening to this episode, those who have made it this far. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher or at Kilpin Chronicle for some more explicit Milan-based rants. Being joined by Anthony AJ Torgrud.
That's me. Happy days. Find me on Twitter at Torgrud45. And Madison, I will give you a cue this time, since you forgot earlier.
Thanks, man. I forgot?
Yep.
Interesting. You guys can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Madison_DT.
I forgot to mention, we should hopefully have a special guest on next week doing a segment previewing the Roma game. A friend of mine who's a Roma fan. So try to get him on for a little bit to preview the game next time. But yeah, until then, we'll catch you in a week's time. Thanks for listening.
Tira Alessio, Suso, tira, perché non tiriamo? Ma perché non tiriamo? Gol! Alessio Romagnoli, gol! Alessio Romagnoli!